There's some version of a gate to hell in pretty much all the Fatal Frame games. In the first game, we have the Yomi no Mon, or Hell Gate beneath the Himuro Mansion. This same term, Yomi no Mon, is also used in the second game for the gate to hell beneath Minakami Village, although the actual hole itself is also referred to as Utsuro, or the Hellish Abyss in English. In 3, we have the Abyss of the Horizon, or Hate no Fuchi in Japanese. 4 has Tsukiyomi, a sort of lunar underworld on Rogetsu Isle, and 5 has the Shadow Spring, or Kurokisawa, on Mount Hikami. You might be wondering why there are so many openings to the other side, but this isn't exactly unique to the games. They are, in fact, inspired by real life, and Japan is said to have numerous gates all over the country that will lead you to the underworld, or the other side. For example, Mount Osore, which Mount Hikami is vaguely based on, is said to hold a gate to the underworld, much like the Shadow Spring. Hana no Iwaya Shrine in Mie Prefecture is said to be one of the graves of Izanami, and the cave here is believed to be another entrance to the underworld that is currently sealed with a giant boulder. And of course, we have Yomotsu Hirasaka near my old hometown of Matsue that is said to lead you down into the underworld as well. So, if we look at real life, the Fatal Frame world having so many entrances to the other side isn't really all that strange. Although, it is perhaps a little concerning that most of them appear to be concentrated in this one small area of the northeast. Either way, this week we're going to be looking at one of those gates to hell in particular, the Hellish Abyss, located in Minakami, and the strange conditions required to keep it closed. We actually learn a decent amount about this gate thanks to the, well, let's just say, curious folklorist Makabe Seijiro, who left behind notes on his findings that were collected in one of the Fatal Frame 2 guidebooks way back in the day. So, let's dive in. Naturally, there are spoilers for all aspects of the game here. So, Makabe tells us that he has spent many years travelling all across the country to study the unique beliefs found in tiny villages. But one idea in particular has always piqued his interest, and that is the notion of hell gates, and how villagers who live near them worship them. At some point, he learnt of one in a small village in the Hokuriku region. This gate is said to resemble a pedestal surrounded by sacred rope, and the villagers perform numerous festivals, many of which involve sacrifices to keep away disaster. Now, this intrigues Makabe. After all, most religious practices are carried out so that believers can find peace and happiness while alive, or to pray for the same after death. Yet when it comes to hell gates, these practices seem to be more about protecting themselves from the terror that lurks within. There's something so tantalizing about this idea that he simply has to know more about it. What lurks in these gates? What exactly do the villagers do during their festivals to keep calamity at bay? Thankfully, an opportunity is soon presented to Makabe on a silver platter. His apprentice, Munakata Ryozo, happens to be childhood friends with some boys who live in Minakami Village, another location with a supposed hell gate, and one of them has written to him asking for help. In this village, twins are turned into shrine maidens during a festival to soothe the hell gate, but nobody will talk about what actually happens during this festival. He simply must find out for himself. Now, before heading over, Makabe borrows a strange camera from his good friend, Dr. Aso Kunihiko. This strange device is called a camera obscura, and it can capture images of the other side. He hopes that he can use it to both record the Hell Gate and help people take his friend's research more seriously as well. On the way to Minakami, Makabe learns of the Crimson Sacrifice ritual that is carried out there. He's told it is held once every few decades, but as for what happens during it, nobody will say. Seems this festival uses twins, preferably girls, but sometimes boys. And considering its name, well, it seems likely these twins are sacrificed to the Hellgate, right? Minakami seems to produce an oddly high number of twins, and they are perhaps used constantly as human sacrifices. Makabe again can't help but wonder if the people of All Gods Village, as we might call it, are being controlled or used by the kami they worship during this festival. But then again, he has also heard that twins are more likely to give birth to more twins. And considering this is a small isolated village in the middle of nowhere, well, everyone is likely related in some manner or another, so it's perhaps not so strange they give birth to so many twins out there. Still, while Makabe is interested in the festival that is held every few decades, it is the secret one he is most intrigued by. And as he and Munakata approach the village, they find a pedestal on a hill where it's said the villagers gather during the festival. A pedestal surrounded by sacred rope. Could this truly be a Hellgate? The pair are then granted access to the village and shown to the Kurosawa house, the head family in these parts. Surprisingly, the family head, Ryokan, grants Makabe pretty much free access to anything he wants in the village to further his research on their festival. And so, for the next few days, he spends his time poring through documents in the Kurosawa house. But there's one part of the house he's not allowed access to. 2 passageways leading out from the family altar room. Interesting. What could be back there? He determines to find out before he leaves. From the village's documents, Makabe is able to determine that twin shrine maidens take up residence in the Tachibana and Kiryu houses to prepare for the festival. 1 twin lives in each house, and there they must be purified, which they do through rituals and prayer. But interestingly, all the houses in the village face the Kurosawa house. The house with the locked section he can't enter. What exactly lies in there? There's also an old tree near Kureha Shrine, and it's said that they enshrine the remaining here. A remaining is a shrine maiden who has fulfilled her role in the festival. But again, considering the name, and considering that only one is left to remain, well, it seems there might be some actual sacrificing taking place here. Again, he simply must learn more. After taking a photo with Dr. Asol's camera at the Umbral Mound, Makabe finally glimpses the other side with his own 2 eyes. It seems that not only does this camera actually work, but indeed, there may truly be a Hellgate here that he can witness as well. A tantalizing proposition. However, it's also not long until Makabe is able to fulfill his other curiosity of what lies behind the narrow halls hidden in the Kurosawa house. A location that may, for better or worse, lead him straight towards his goal. When Makabe and Munakata are separated, Makabe starts to suspect something is up. His suspicions are confirmed when the Kurosawa twins give him a map that shows him how to escape the village. But he's so close to learning what really happens here, and perhaps finally seeing a Hellgate. Faced with the knowledge that he might finally sate his lifelong curiosity in exchange for his very own life, he chooses to stay. A little more digging uncovers that something called the Hellish Abyss lies beneath the village, right under that pedestal they saw on the way in, and every few decades, darkness spews out of it. This hellish abyss connects the living world to the world of the dead, and the only way to stop this darkness from consuming the village is to offer it a sacrifice. That sacrifice being one of the twin shrine maidens. But interestingly, the hellish abyss is such a forbidden location that no one must ever lay eyes upon it, and in fact, must never even speak its name. The villagers don't even write its name in their documents. it is something they all understand, but never directly speak out loud. And it would seem he is going to be offered as a sort of temporary sacrifice to it. That was why he was allowed to stay and do whatever he wanted, because he was never going to be allowed to leave again. And when they imprison him, he can't even hate. In fact, Makabe finds himself excited by the prospect of finally seeing a Hellgate with his own eyes. Something that is forbidden to see and forbidden to speak of. And now he has front row tickets. Who else can claim such a unique experience? Makabe learns that he is to be turned into a kusabi inside that same hidden room he has been trying so hard to get into. A kusabi is a temporary sacrifice to hopefully calm the abyss before the real Crimson Sacrifice ritual can take place. The greater he suffers, the more powerful his sacrifice will be. Seems this is largely done by being bound in ropes and then sliced repeatedly before being tossed into the abyss. He fears he may not be able to endure the pain before he finally gets to see it. But hey, too late for that now. After all, is it not worth it to potentially catch a glimpse of something forbidden? Something nobody else has ever seen? Is a little mortal suffering not worth finally witnessing the divine? We're ultimately never told which kami is worshipped here in Minakami Village. Which kami may be, in their own way, controlling and leading the villagers. But at the end of the day, it's also not important. Only sating the hellish abysses. Makabe is sacrificed, and his ritual is successful. If only briefly. It sadly doesn't quell the abyss for as long as the villagers were hoping, but it still did the job. And in his final moments, Makabe was able to witness the horrifying side of the divine, something nobody else was allowed to see. All it cost him was his life. Now, this concept of the other side being forbidden to view is of course not new. In Western mythology, perhaps the most famous story is that of Orpheus, who travels to the underworld to bring back his wife Eurydice. His only condition is that he doesn't look back at her until they reach the surface. But of course, curiosity gets the better of him, and he looks back, dooming his wife to be trapped in Hades forever. Japan also has its own version in the tale of Izanagi and Izanami, their very own creator gods. In this tale, Izanami dies after giving birth to the fire god, Kagutsuchi, and so Izanagi sets out for the underworld to see his beloved wife again. However, he was too late, as she had already partaken of the food of the other side, meaning she could never leave again. She begged her husband not to look upon her visage, yet he betrayed her and lit a fire so he may better see her. Now being a citizen of the underworld, Izanami appeared as a rotting corpse, and in shame and anger, she chased her husband out. Real-life mythology tells us over and over again how dangerous it is to not just interact with the other side, but how dangerous it is to perceive it as well. It simply never ends well. Fatal Frame 2 also gives us another little hint towards this, with a nice nod to the Ring series as well. We're told that at some point during his stay, Makabe took a picture of Sae with the camera obscura, and it revealed her face, and her face alone, to be warped and twisted, much like those under Sadako's curse in the Ring series. In the Fatal Frame universe, the camera obscuras are able to capture, reflect, exercise, and even reproduce the other side. Is this photo then not proof that Sae had already been touched by the other side? Claimed by the hellish abyss, if you will. Makabe knows what the camera is capable of. He is aware of what is likely going to happen soon, and yet, his overwhelming curiosity convinces him to do nothing. he doesn't try to help the girls escape. In fact, when they try to help him, he ignores them. Some men want to see the world burn, sure, but some of them also just really want to see the other side before they too join it, no matter the cost. Perhaps unsurprisingly, interacting with a gate to hell leaves a permanent mark on Makabe's spirit as well. Once the Crimson Sacrifice ritual fails a second time, and the repentance occurs, all those unfortunate souls who lurk down there are able to break free and consume those left alive in the village. His torturous experience transforms him into the fearsome Kusabi, or rope-bound man, a vengeful spirit who imitates his own death by cutting and slashing his way through the village, wiping out any unfortunate enough to cross his path. Now, as you might expect, something called the Hellish Abyss is hardly magnanimous. As the villagers rightfully feared all along, darkness consumes Minakami and traps everyone there in endless night, forcing them to relive their deaths over and over, while Makabe and Sae, those most recently tossed into the abyss, continue to prey on anyone unfortunate enough to find themselves lost there. For whatever reason, the only way to sate the abyss is to do exactly what the villagers had been doing for perhaps hundreds of years. Successfully carry out the Crimson Sacrifice ritual with a pair of suitable twins. Maybe their local kami wasn't the nicest spirit around, but they at least tried to keep the other side where it belonged. Not here, in our world. And like numerous stories and legends you can find throughout Japan, and as you might expect of something called the Hellish Abyss, there isn't really a good ending to this tale. Even if the ritual is successfully carried out, well, in a few decades, they're going to have to do so again, and again, and again. This will presumably go on for eternity. But there is of course the question of whether this will actually be necessary if no people are living nearby. After all, in modern times, Minakami Village is eventually flooded, thanks to a newly constructed dam nearby. Hell gates don't necessarily stop being gates to the other side, but if we look to real-life lore, well, they can and often are simply sealed shut. Perhaps the Hellish Abyss in Minakami works the same way, but ultimately, the games never touch on this point again, so we may never know. And when it comes to the other side, well, perhaps the sacrifice of an entire village and its ultimate erasure from existence may be enough to keep that gate, if nothing else, dormant for quite some time to come. And we still have all those other ones nearby, so hey, the fun never ends. But what do you guys think? Are there any other bits of lore you'd like to see me cover? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.